Just 10 seconds. Okay, great. So it has started broadcasting. So thanks, Tamaswati, for taking this call. I know I think a couple of weeks back we had come and I think you were off for the Durga
Yes,
Puja
I was on track.
holidays.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So, a quick background. We have connected a few times in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually an alumnus of IIT Madras myself.
Okay.
And I'm very active. I'm the president of the IIT Madras alumni chapter in Bangalore,
Ah,
and
all right. Yes,
and
yes.
we keep doing this entrepreneur adda and so
Yes,
on. And
yes. Now I'm able to connect. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. Great. So this company Itihasa is a not-for-profit organization that I've co-founded with Chris Gopal Krishnan,
Yes.
who's the one of the co-founders of Infosys.
Mm-hmm.
And Itihasa's objective is to trace the evolution history and evolution of technologies and businesses in India.
Okay.
We have kind of chronicled the 60 years of Indian IT. We have done a study on the AI ML research in India.
Mm-hmm.
We are tracking the brain research and computational neuroscience research in India.
Okay.
So you will find a lot of these reports coming out in the next few months.
Yes. Okay.
And we have now taken up this study, which is to study the academic incubators in India.
All right.
And this particular project, we are actually collaborating with Professor Suresh Bhagavatulla of NSR Cell in IIM Bangalore.
Yeah. Got it. Bangalore. Yes.
Right? So that's the context to this.
Mm-hmm.
Our idea is to study the top four academic incubators in phase one,
Okay.
which is essentially IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, I am Ahmedabad, and I am Bangalore.
All right.
And then in phase two, we will study maybe five more newer academic incubators.
Okay.
And the idea would be to come out with a with some paper and some report.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our objectives also, of course, is to see what has worked. We do have some hypotheses. I don't want to reveal that hypothesis before the call,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have some hypothesis from a theory perspective
Okay.
about the role of an incubator, which will come out through the questions that I ask.
All right.
And and then ultimately we also want to get a given our own background. I used to work at Infosys myself for many years, and if you look at the IT companies, in addition to the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
there was also a lot of emphasis placed on the process metrics.
Sure.
And so we'd like to sort of understand what these process metrics might mean from an incubator.
Okay.
And so that'll be so process metrics as well as outcome metrics.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that we'd want to come out at the end of this study.
Okay.
So with that in mind, we do have a set of standard questionnaire which you're going to ask of every this thing. Of course, the questions will be changed depending on the role that person plays. So, for instance,
Sure.
I met with faculty, so I asked a slightly different set of questions. Now, you as CEO of the incubator, we have a slightly different of those questions. So, can I go through that questionnaire with you?
Yeah, yeah. So before that, when you were here, did you get a chance to come and visit the research park?
Not during this time, but I have been to the research park multiple times.
Okay, but in the recent times you have, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
In recent, I've had an opportunity to visit.
Good. Good. Okay. Sure.
In fact, we were there with that Axelor thing. I saw the Taleva lounge and all that.
The Axeler, yeah, the launch. You were there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. So Tamaswati, the first question is, what were your objectives, for the incubator when you took over as the CEO?
So I'm actually the founder CEO.
Okay.
Founder in the sense that's when incubation cells started. It was just
Right.
Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala and I
Right.
at that point. The objective, there were multiple objectives at that point. One is just to encourage entrepreneurship in the larger IIT Madras community. That
Right.
was our very basic objective. Um, Given that we already had a place like Research Park where the industry academia collaboration, which is primarily the objective of the Research Park,
Hmm.
was already going quite well,
Right.
and they were in the process of expanding. And what IIT Madras or individuals in IIT Madras at that point felt that this is the right time, and we have the right kind of ecosystem right now to kind of accelerate, well, not just accelerate but trigger as well as encourage entrepreneurship within the institution, among various members of the institution, whether it's the students, the faculty members, the staff, research
Right.
scholars, and various others. So that was primarily the aim when incubation cell was created.
When was this?
So incubation cell started off in 2013.
Okay.
But prior to that, there was a lot of things that were happening sporadically. It's not
Right.
incubation cell was the start of entrepreneurship, in IIT.
Right.
There were a lot of student initiatives. You would know as an alumnus also.
Right.
CFI was already there. ICNSR was there, where they were promoting the industry collaborations with faculty members and so forth. And
Right.
there were a few companies that were coming out now,
Right.
and they sort of existed somewhere or the other in the campus.
And perhaps RTBI may have started
RTBI
earlier.
was there, yeah. So that was the only formal incubator that was there in IIT, but it didn't work that closely with IIT because of the objectives that it primarily
Right.
had, right?
Right.
So it was more external facing,
Right.
and it was led by Professor Ashok, of course, and
Right.
director now, the current director, and
Correct.
few other faculty members at that time who are now directors of the newer IITs now.
Right.
So, but primarily driven by Professor Ashok.
Right.
The objective was mostly external driven with rural focus, socially relevant projects. And
Right.
it was more of a, so they had a lot of emphasis on exploratory projects in agriculture, public
Right.
health, microfinance. And
Right.
then if there were anything had the potential to be commercialized, that's when the individuals were supported to create companies. That's how
Right.
RBI kind of started off, and I think by 2013 they were already they started off in 2006, right?
Mhm.
So it was already 6 to 7 years old by then,
Right.
right? And they
Right.
already had some 30, 40 companies
Right.
which were incubated, all externals.
Right.
And a lot of them were working with IIT on collaborative technology development, pretty much like how industry, being in Research Park, was working
Right.
with
Right.
IIT.
Right.
But there was nothing internally there within the institute which would, link all the various stakeholders, bring a concerted effort in providing support to startups, and just make things easier, more simplified for anybody who wants to take up entrepreneurship as a career option or something to do it on the side. For example, for the faculty members, to be part of such activities and all that. So that
Right.
was the intent of incubation cell at that point.
Right.
Where what we achieved in the first initial few years was we linked these various bodies, whether these were the innovation hubs run by students within IIT. Then
Hmm.
you have the various faculty members who were more industry facing, but
Right.
didn't really consider taking up entrepreneurship because they didn't know how to do it.
Right.
So linking them, then, and also the alumni network, which was
Right.
even at that time very, very active in various fronts to do with something or the other to do with startups.
Right.
So just linking all of that and then bringing all of that within the research park where the whole innovation ecosystem already existed.
Right.
Translational research was already there.
Right.
So we just kind of leveraged what was already there within IIT and linking all of that together and just giving it a wonderful shape here over the years.
Correct.
by being within the research park.
Right.
And since then, we've seen a lot of trends, obviously.
Right.
And like you said, with the IT industries that you had mentioned earlier when we
Right.
started off, right?
Right.
It was essentially we didn't have an outcome in mind,
Hmm.
but it was mostly process driven. So we
Hmm.
creating processes. It was
Right.
primarily our intent, just stabilizing policies so that things are easier for everybody, whether
Right.
it's internal members, so that there are no conflicts with the institute, as
Right.
well as the externals who want to work closely with the IIT Madras community.
Right. Right. So
So we
one question on the research park. The research park in the context of the incubation cell was more like a physical space where this also coexisted. Would
Yes,
that be
yes,
your
of course. So the research park is primarily the physical space,
right?
and what they bring here are the industry bodies, right? The various
Right. Right.
industries come here and they set up their R&D centers.
Correct. Correct.
Yes, so that was already there. There were close to I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think
Right.
probably 30, 40 companies were already here because at
Right.
that time we
Right.
had the phase one only.
Correct.
Now it's massive right now.
Correct.
So with that in place, faculty were already engaging quite a bit with the industry.
Right.
So those few things were already in place. Alumni were active on campus.
Right.
Then we had the student bodies and some startups. There were about 15, 16 startups kind of spread all over the campus at that point when incubation
Right.
started off, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we kind of created processes for uh, entrepreneurs to engage with various resources, leverage various things within the campus, as well as
Right.
research park, and also bring in the networks. That was also one of the things that we wanted to do is bring in the industry networks for our startups, create a very good mentoring program,
Right.
primarily first with our alumni, obviously, the
Right.
ones who were in Chennai as well as in the US.
Right.
The EF in the US at that point was also very active. They
Right.
still
Right.
continue to be, but they were fairly active then.
Yes.
So the Chennai Entrepreneurship Forum was very small at that point when we started off. So that
Right.
also expanded along with us, with the
In fact,
incubation.
I'm aware. I mean, I've spoken to Vishy and others, right, as part of that EF.
Yes, yeah, we pretty much launched both EF
Yes.
and incubation sort of launched in the same year.
Same time. Right. Right. So,
Um,
which actually brings me to the next question, which
yeah.
were, if you were to look at this, what would have been the key business matrices that you tracked, and did you benchmark this with any other incubator?
Uh, I mean, we didn't really benchmark this with any other incubator. No.
Okay.
I don't recall that at all. Not the way we started it. I mean, at
Okay.
least what Professor Ashok and I, the way we approached it.
Right.
Because RTBI, there was a lot of learning from RTBI.
Right.
So with RTBI being there, we didn't struggle as much. So
Right.
that gave us, it saved us a few years,
Right.
definitely in terms of setting policies. We learned what didn't work in
Right.
RTBI.
Right.
So we didn't repeat those mistakes, of course.
Right.
And we did leverage their network quite a bit at
Right.
that point,
Right.
because they had the government links, they
Right.
had the industry links, which was beyond IIT Madras and alumni,
Right.
right?
Right.
And there were startups already there who had
Correct.
either failed or were doing well.
Correct.
So, talking to them allowed us to create our own processes, the kind
Right.
of committees that we should have, the kind of mentorship program that we should, or the things that we should emphasize on when we are trying to create, say, a mentoring program or selecting the kind of mentors that we should. So we
Right.
did
Right.
get the feedback from the startup community very quickly. What had worked for them and what were difficult for them to do when it came to IIT Madras with the institute. So that did help us a lot. So I wouldn't say it was benchmark, but rather we kind of leveraged a lot
Sure.
of learnings of RTBI,
Sure.
and
What,
that
what
did
about
help.
matrices? I mean, either you introduced then or you're tracking today. What would be the key business metrics that you might be tracking?
So I'll be very honest, we didn't really set any matrices at that point. All
Okay.
we said is, can we look, say, in the 2 years down the line, do we see an increase in students, taking this as their first career choice? Those are
Right.
very simple matrices for us, because at that
Right.
point, student entrepreneurship was fairly low, when we
Mhm.
started off in 2013. Uh,
Right.
and do we also see the best of the students in their respective classes taking this
Right.
as an
Right.
option, and not because they couldn't get a better job offer somewhere?
Right.
Can we get a larger percentage of faculty members, associating with startups, let alone becoming promoters themselves?
Mm.
So it was primarily just to encourage and engage more and more of the IIT Madras community
Right.
to the startups, to the entrepreneurship culture. There was those simple matrices when we started off, right?
Right.
And
But what about today, as in from a process metric perspective? Is there
yes.
some 4 or 5 matrices that you might, is there anything like important that you are tracking? So that might be, I mean, I'm just giving an example. I don't want to, uh, I'm just suggesting one as an example to
No, no, I
illustrate.
know. So we are at a stage. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you, we are currently in the process of creating these matrices,
I see. I see.
moving
Okay.
forward.
Okay.
Because honestly, we didn't do all this when we started off.
Right.
We
Right.
had certain objectives, targets in mind.
Right.
I wouldn't say we had a document where I'd listed 1 to 10. These are the things that we would
Right.
do.
Right.
Probably because this has already been done in this and this incubator. But
Right.
of course, the idea was, can we promote or can we create an ecosystem where individuals, whether connected to IIT or not,
Right.
feel empowered enough to take on big problems, big challenges that our country is facing, and
Right.
try and come up with a solution that can be commercialized as well. So never a non-profit kind of a model. That
Right.
was the primary objective of the individuals that were behind, with the incubation cell starting off, or the research
Sure.
for that matter.
Sure. Sure.
And over the years, what we have seen is truly this place has become quite a model for how deep technology startups can be created, can be supported, to create sustainable businesses. We are
Right.
still learning. I'm not saying we have found the model right now.
Right. Right.
We're still learning, because every sector has its own set of challenges, right?
Right.
But over the years, what we have seen is, whether it's a student or faculty, they're not creating, or even our alumni, or for that matter, all the external entrepreneurs that we have,
Right.
they are not creating just yet another, e-commerce or a mobile app or some kind of a retail,
Right.
kind of
Right.
startup. But these are, I mean, serious high technologies that they're working on with the intent of creating businesses. So they are kind of interacting with their potential industry clients, or in any other customer segment, right?
Right.
So we've over the years tried to create a ecosystem that is supportive of that,
That's true.
supportive of such ventures. And that was also one of the objectives, because the kind of research or R&D that was taking place in IIT,
Hmm.
one was, of course, to make them more applied.
Right.
So let them, interact more with industry, but can spin-outs also come out of these activities, so that you have the end product going to its end user, kind of a thing, right?
Correct.
So that was one of the objectives as well. And I think uh, in the 5-6 years of incubation cell being there, we've seen that we've done really well in that respect as well. If you just pick some of the sectors, whether it's in manufacturing, robotics,
Right.
medical devices, energy, transportation, with the electric vehicle space now really expanding within IIT. So
Right.
really tough problems which
Yes.
young entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs are taking up.
Right.
And they feel that they can do it here.
Right.
I don't know if they were elsewhere, if they would have that kind of confidence. And so far, in the in the 10, I would say RTBI is 12 years old now. IC is 5, so we can probably take the ecosystem to be 12 to 15 years old.
Right.
The number of failures means people just giving up and closing,
Right. Right.
is fairly low. Still it's
Right.
quite low.
Right.
So that has been one of the other trends. So far, what we've done is we have captured trends.
Right.
And the original objective that we had, did we meet that, or did we go over that, or did we underperform? Those are the things that we have very recently, kind of evaluated.
Right.
And now we are actually coming up with what are the next steps, and that's what we're working out on matrices. And also looking at a few examples, perhaps the global scale, that and try and compare where are the gaps, where are we kind of weak.
Right.
That's precisely the stage that we are at right now.
Great. I mean, if I know this, you are in the process, but if there is anything as part of something that you can share separately, as part of the study that we are doing, that'll be wonderful, because that
Sure.
can educate others.
Separately, yes, certainly.
It can educate others. Like there might be something saying, "Hey, here are some preliminary matrices that you're thinking we should have." It may not be finalized. You may be in the process, but this might be in your preliminary stage.
Sure.
If you could share that, that will be wonderful.
Sure.
That in fact brings me to the next question, which are where we are interested in the key factors that assisted in achieving these objectives. So there are 4 factors in particular we are interested.
Okay.
Talent, technology, know-how, and capital. So if you could comment on, I mean, they are not strictly, I mean, at least talent and know-how, talent, technology, know-how are somewhat related, but slightly different aspects.
So are you looking at from the incubator perspective, or just general ecosystem?
No, from the incubator perspective. That is, which of these factors has led you to meet your objectives? And what might you comment on the factors?
I would say capital is one of the lowest.
Right.
Talent, well, I'll say know-how, experiences of individuals. What was the other one? Sorry.
Talent, technology, know-how, and capital.
So technology, certainly technology from the point of view of the startups that did emerge.
Given that you are deep tech also.
Yes. So that, we are what we are because of our startups, obviously.
Right.
So that really does ensure that we stand apart. The IIT Madras ecosystem per se.
Right.
Tech definitely, but obviously these are driven by very talented, experienced in their own ways. So if you look at I would say talent, experience, as well as perseverance, the ability to not give up. So because we have a good representation of founders of various backgrounds, right? They all have certain attributes which are different from each other, obviously. So when you're looking at the student startups here, primarily the risk-taking ability, they don't give up that easily. It's just the sheer positiveness, because considering the kind of problem statements that they're going after, right? These are not simple problems, and even when they come to us, a lot of us feel that this will not go anywhere.
Right.
They've proven us wrong.
Right.
Best example would be Ather. They have proven us wrong very early on. Because when they had approached us saying we will build the next EV scooter, an electric scooter, we were like, yeah, sure. That was kind of a lot of statements that came, right? But we saw that journey. We also grew with that journey. All of us did here. And there are many more such examples. If you look at just student entrepreneurs or early graduates who are alumni, but we would consider them as students. Faculty also, for example, comes with a whole lot of experience, expertise within, and know-how as well. From their respective fields. But their ability to unlearn many things, their ability to listen to their customers. These are also journeys that each individual faculty go through. Their ability to work with their um, former student founders who become
Right.
their bosses tomorrow, right?
Right.
Because they become the CEOs, and then the faculty are no longer, in that dominating and
Right. Right.
position. So the faculty entrepreneurs, faculty members that have become entrepreneurs or part entrepreneurs also have had their journey to share. But
Right.
capital, I would say, is one of the least things, because um, it's not that any of our companies have done well or the incubator has done well because we have put in a lot of money.
Hmm.
Um, that was never a factor. I think it's purely people driven. Um,
Right. Right.
a success. So
Sure.
far, what we have seen,
Yeah.
people driven. People have failed, learned, reiterated things. Uh,
Right.
and a lot of contribution of people where money was never the factor.
Right.
But we are at a stage right now that to expand in the scale that we are looking at,
Hmm.
definitely we will need funds, a lot more funds that is more than available. So we are looking at raising that kind of fund because we see the need,
Right.
definitely. Not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Now, so one.
Sorry, I'm not able to give you a straightforward answer.
No, no, no. I think this is
But
this
these are
is
good
good.
questions. I mean, I should also start thinking in these. These are good questions to think about. Yeah.
I'm happy to share these the questionnaire
Yeah,
with you.
it would be quite helpful, actually. Yes.
Uh, the other aspect was, while these were factors which help to meet your objectives,
Mhm.
is there any factor which has prevented you from achieving these objectives? Or another way of asking this might be, perhaps what might be the maybe the weakest point of the incubator?
So my personal view is, even though our success that you see in the incubate in the IIT startup ecosystem is primarily people driven.
Right.
Um, the fact that we've not reached to the height that a lot of us would have expected. I mean, obviously,
Hmm.
to match our expectation is also a people problem.
Hmm. Hmm.
So while talent has allowed us to achieve whatever we have,
Hmm.
lack of talent also is an issue,
Hmm.
especially when you look at it from the incubator management.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so if you try to match, say, our advisors, the kind of mentors that
Hmm.
we have, the potential in our startup entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
Now, can we match that with the similar kind of talent in the incubator?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that is a problem. It's not just within IIT Madras. I think it's across the country,
Right.
um, which I feel it's not there yet.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which means that, I mean, we have a fairly large management team now.
Hmm.
But can I say that they are now ready to start playing a potential mentor's role, a
Hmm.
domain expert role, or really, every individual can make a substantial contribution to the success of
Hmm.
the startups or even the learning.
Hmm.
I don't think we've reached at that stage because that is one of the bottlenecks,
Hmm.
at least
Hmm.
here. That's what I've seen.
Sure.
Um, and there is heavy dependence, of course, on our mentors, which should be there because every startup, as
Right.
they grow, will require the need of different kind of people to support them.
Right.
The incubator also, in general, should play that early mentoring role, the
Hmm.
early guide, the person, the people that the startup should feel comfortable coming to with any kind of questions in the early
Right.
days, right?
Right.
And not that incubator just plays a role of providing infrastructure,
Correct.
just pure administrative role and that kind of a thing.
Right.
So
Right.
that's primarily the direction I am trying to take the incubator to.
Right.
And my current advisors, who are members of our board,
Hmm.
I mean, I am in constant touch with them to get their guidance as well as to how do I improve the talent
Hmm.
pool of my management.
Right.
And that is essential, I think, across all incubators who want to take their ecosystem to the next level, right?
Right. Right.
So,
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
that I think is one of the lacking factors. And of course, we need to bring the funds, we need more publicity. I mean, you may think IIT Madras is very well known, but even at our stage, we need to be known better, whether it's
Right.
in Delhi or in Mumbai, wherever, this should be the, I mean, every person who are probably from the industry or the government should be more aware of what's going on over here.
Right.
Be able to better represent, market our startups better. So it all trickles down to the talent pool and the aspiration of the incubator
Right.
managers or management, right? So I
Right.
think that's one of the bottlenecks right now.
Sure.
Uh, but talent hire is a problem across the board for everybody, I think.
Sure. Sure.
So that is one of my struggles
Sure.
right now.
That is true. I mean, not just for the incubator, but also, I suppose, for the incubating companies and so,
Absolutely.
across everywhere, there's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question isn't, you started in 2018, 13.
Yes.
If you were to just look at it from a key milestones, maybe some two or three key milestones in the evolution of the incubator, what might that be? First year we said all about setting up processes and stuff. So like that, maybe there are some two, three milestones, or maybe there is only one milestone, 2013 to 18, and
Yeah.
now
So
you are.
yeah, so I'm just recalling back. Um, Certainly, first year where the processes were put in place, we had policies. There were certain conflicts or some issues with the policies
Mhm.
within. Because this is not such a straightforward ecosystem. Because as you would see with academic incubators,
Correct, correct,
you have the institute to manage as well. So you're not as independent as you would
right,
on paper, but so there were all of these issues that we had to deal with.
right,
And yes, in the first year and a half, we managed to clean all of that up.
right.
And of course, constituting the right board, the
Hmm,
right committees. For
hmm,
example, here we have a committee which evaluates incubation. We have a separate committee that evaluates investments in startups, seed funding
hmm,
that we
hmm,
do.
hmm,
So constituting those things, getting the right persons on board,
hmm,
I would say that was the first year, a year and a half achievement, and getting the first round of funding as well.
hmm,
Because
hmm,
for the incubator to start its operation, we were not funded by IIT Madras at all.
hmm, 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 hmm.
So we had to raise our own funds, and being in research park, we had to pay rent as well. So
Right.
it was nothing free for anybody
This
here.
first round of funding came from government, or it was
Government.
government?
No,
Okay.
it came from the government for the incubator operations.
Ha ha.
Uh,
Correct. Okay.
yeah, alumni donations were there. That was primarily for seed funding to our startups.
Okay. Which
So
which department of government?
this was Department of Science and
Oh,
Technology,
DST.
DST.
Okay.
So
Okay.
DST still has these TBI, which is the Technology Business Incubator
Ha.
grant.
Right. 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 Okay.
Yes. So that was the first thing I did. I
Okay.
wrote a proposal in my first week of joining incubation cell.
Right.
So uh, that's what we did in the first year.
Right.
Raise our funds, finish the incorporation policies,
Right.
agreement templates were created for incubation and all that.
Right.
Committees were formed. So primarily, it was that was a big milestone, I would say, that we
Right.
cleared kind of.
Right.
The second lot was is creating a good quality and a sustainable mentoring program.
Hmm.
And unlike in many other places, our mentors here so far
Hmm.
are do this as a pro bono activity. We
Right.
don't pay any of our mentors. There is nothing expected in return.
Right.
And a lot of people who visit us just don't believe us that
Hmm.
is true,
Hmm.
right? And just
Hmm.
yesterday we had a group from MHRD, and the people
Hmm.
just didn't believe me, and I said, I'm not lying here. That's how it works.
Right.
So establishing that, maintaining it,
Hmm. Hmm.
and 5 years down the line, the program still continues. It's become more frequent, the
Right.
meetings,
Right.
and the members have expanded. The older members continue to stay on. So
Right.
that is I think, a very very big task for any incubator is to
Yes.
create a good sustainable mentoring network,
Yes. Yes.
which is one of the most difficult things that people find in being
Correct.
a part of an incubator.
Correct.
And of course, we've been fortunate to be able to tap into our alumni network, but that doesn't necessarily ensure that it is regular, it stays on.
Right.
So I think the mentoring program is certainly one of the other things that we managed to keep, improve. We are trying to improve it every
Right.
day.
Right.
And for our startups to engage with the mentors both ways.
Right. Right.
So that a lot of effort has gone into that, and we keep that is one of our focus areas, continues
Right.
to be. The third, I would say, is the rise in the entrepreneurship, uh, rise in entrepreneurs that we've seen from the various student bodies as well as the faculty. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, so it is not a natural trend that took place. I think we had
Excuse
stories
me.
early on,
Hmm.
whether Aether came up, then we had a couple of faculty involved companies also, from
Right.
planners to detect, so they
Right.
kept on coming.
Right.
I wouldn't say they all became unicorns, but
Right.
these were companies that came out of labs, R&D work in IIT, or even student initiatives,
Right.
and then took on a shape of a business.
Right.
And then now they're in the market with serving the industry or their customers for that matter. And they
Right.
kind of became role models for the students as well
Correct.
as for faculty members. And so we saw that over the years, that rise in the numbers.
Right.
So that is something, it's a big milestone, especially when you look at the faculty, because student alumni, sure, across India, every academic,
Right.
very
Right.
successful
Right.
ones will say that yes, they have seen that too, because the startup ecosystem within the country also
Right.
transformed in 5 years.
In fact, the number
But
that you shared last week, some
yes,
35% of the companies where
just faculty funding.
faculty
Yes, yes,
faculty have
yeah.
founders or minority.
Yes, yes, and that's not counting the ones who advise mentor companies
Correct.
without
Correct.
any stake,
Correct.
right? So I would say that is the highest in the country. I'm quite
Hmm.
sure about it. Uh,
Right.
as far as I know through MHRD connections and all that,
I see.
it is certainly the highest. So that has multiple effects. So it is not just that we have a lot of startups with faculty promoters,
Right.
but faculty members also kind of influence the students within the
Right.
campus, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
if you are convinced of this way of doing research, right,
Right. Right.
they are able to influence a large number of young people within the campus, whether the undergraduate, postgraduate, or even their project staff, right?
Right.
They
Right.
sort of become your brand ambassadors in a sense.
Correct.
And that's pretty much what we have seen. And also, they are the magnets for a lot of external startup students who come
Right.
to create something, build something, not necessarily a startup, but anything
Right.
useful to the community. So we are
Right.
seeing that happen.
Right.
And now, if you see within IIT, there are certain areas that have been taken up as a focus area, whether it's in the water, renewable
Hmm. Hmm.
energy, robotics.
Hmm.
A lot of centers have come up where
Right.
there is interdisciplinary engagements, right?
Right.
And so they are working closely with industry, with government, trying to come up with products or kind of services that can be taken up in the market. But we are also seeing a lot of students that are associated with the centers creating companies as well.
Correct. Correct.
So I've actually seen that change taking place in these 5 years,
Right.
which was not as evident before incubation cell came to place.
Correct.
Um, and the other thing now we are doing is slowly, gradually, I would say, that trying to influence policies,
Hmm.
trying to help um, the other colleges or institutes in
Hmm.
the region,
Hmm.
that could be within Chennai and beyond Chennai, to
Hmm.
create something at a much smaller scale, of course,
Right.
similar innovation ecosystem.
Right. Right.
Entrepreneurship can come later,
Right.
but this innovation ecosystem. So we are putting a lot of effort now as an organization. Earlier, it used to be as individuals,
Right.
um, where we are trying to play a role. And this
Right.
is one of the matrices we want to take up in the future as well.
Right.
And
Right.
play a stronger role in policy changes,
Right.
as an enabling body, as mentors to our institutes. So can we
Right.
become a nodal center within the region itself,
Right.
and create similar such smaller ecosystems, and at some point as good as IIT Madras.
Right.
across the southern region
Yes.
of India. So that's
Right.
pretty much what we are looking at right now.
Great. I know we have just crossed it's
Yeah,
right now
sorry, I have to
3:30.
head to campus for a meeting, so
Hmm.
that's the reason.
Can I just ask one last question and
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
it?
sure, sure.
Yeah. So the one of the things is, what do you think the role of the incubator was in allowing entrepreneurship, right? The concept of entrepreneurship gain credibility among students. And so this credibility can come from, generally public at large, the employees joining the startups. Credibility can come from customers, from financial community. Oh, because it's a startup at the IIT Madras incubator, it must be good. That, do you think the incubator played a role in entrepreneurship gain credibility?
Certainly. Like I said, the success stories or potential success stories that came out of the ecosystem certainly
Hmm.
was supported by the incubator.
Hmm.
Uh, the reason I say that is success of, say, a Aether or a Planus
Hmm.
or a Unifor, Stellabs. I mean, these are just names that keep
Hmm.
coming, right?
Hmm.
Um, didn't just happen accidentally.
Hmm.
Each one of the companies, if you speak to them, had their ups and downs, their learnings,
Hmm.
their failures, people they went to for help.
Hmm.
At some point ran out of money and so had to be supported somehow. They had some
Hmm.
founder issue or the other,
Right.
or some policy driven issues from the government, or a tender they could not get,
Right.
or, all kind of things, or an investor that they could not get or
Hmm.
did get,
Right.
and that was the reason for the pivot that happened.
Right.
So each one of these startups have their stories,
Hmm.
and which spans over a period of 3 years, 4 years. Early on, for example, in RTBI, a lot of the companies used to stay on with RTBI for 4 5 years, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas in the early days with incubation cell, it would be 3 to 4 years.
Right.
Um, Certainly, incubator had a role to play in solving, mitigating, facilitating in
Hmm.
each of these aspects,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's how we also grew. I mean,
Hmm.
what we have as a great mentoring program was because of all the learnings from what worked and didn't work,
Hmm. Hmm.
or getting the right consultants on board, the right
Hmm.
investors on board, and what kind of investors we have to bring on board, or where are the
Hmm.
gaps in terms of acquiring the first customer that our companies face, is because we've been involved at every matter, with respect to each of these companies that have been successful and some which have closed down as well, right?
Right. Right. So, I
So
mean, this is where that are one of the hypotheses we have. So, the traditional theory about an incubator seems
yes,
to suggest two roles. That is, one which acts as a bridge with the external world, and the
yes,
other which acts as an insulator from the external world. These are
yes,
two roles which an incubator plays.
yes,
What we are also proposing is that perhaps, in addition to these two, which you have given enough evidence, we are
yes,
saying maybe in the initial stage, like entrepreneurship was not a very acceptable thing. At least when I was studying, nobody joined a startup, or no, there was no startup.
yes, yes,
It was a taboo word.
yes.
But today, a lot of people are willing to do it. So that credibility, how did it evolve? So we are saying that some of the academic incubators would have had a role to play in shifting this credibility at a country level.
Yes, so I would say the incubator, as along with the academic institution,
Hmm.
made the whole entrepreneurship more credible. Uh,
Hmm.
IIT Madras certainly did that, right?
Right.
I think within 3 years or so of the incubation cell, they
Hmm.
started emphasizing more on the idea of entrepreneurship, even within the curriculum, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Where they would, and they continue to do that a lot more now.
Right.
Some half credit or some elective courses to be
Right.
done in entrepreneurship,
Right.
where instead of writing a paper, you put submit a business plan, or file a patent, those kind of things.
Right.
More emphasis in masters program. We have that masters in entrepreneurship program, right?
Right.
So emphasizing on that, faculty encouraging their students, BTech or the dual degree students who are doing a project with them to
Right.
say that, great, I mean, finish your degree, whatever, but you have potential to become the CEO of the next company that you create out of this
Right.
product, and I will support you, and don't worry, incubation cell is there to help out,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So
Right.
that definitely we gave them that comfort that we are there to support you in various fronts.
Right.
So that so yeah, so I think it's not just the academic incubators alone. You have to work hand in hand with the academic institution.
Institution.
Yeah.
Right. 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 That's a
Doing
powerful.
it
Yes.
solo can happen, but then you're no different from any of the other private incubators who are also doing well, right?
Of course. Of course.
But if you really want to change the thinking of students or faculty members, the parents as well, being more
Hmm.
comfortable with that,
Hmm. Hmm.
they would like to expect that, say, for a lot of parents, they wouldn't want their kids to just waste their time trying to work on an idea, right?
Right. Right.
That's where IIT says, well, you can work on your idea, defer your placement. We will still help you after a year to
Hmm.
engage, try and get a job if nothing works out. Or
Right.
why don't you get a master's degree while you're doing this, right?
Right.
In between, if the idea does pick up, you create a team, incubation cell is there to help you start a company, right?
Right.
So these are a lot of things that allows a young boy or a girl to take up that risk, stand up to their parents. Parents also say, yeah, great, uh,
Yes.
let's try it out, and so the institution also has, in terms of changes in policies or becoming more liberal in some matters, right?
Right.
And we've worked closely with them. Not necessarily that everything has to get translated into a business.
Right.
You can join other startups. You can try out different ideas and leave it if nothing works out, and
Right. Right.
go off and come back in the future. There are a lot of these options that have been created now,
Correct.
from joining IIT to being part of CFI to being part of these pre-incubation programs to
Right.
finally coming to the incubation cell. And even after incubation, you become part of the research park.
Hmm. Correct.
So a lot of phases, transitions, and you continue to then give back to the community as well, give back to your students, give back to your peers, So it's
Right. Right.
fairly nice, feedback loop that has been created all through.
Correct. Great. I mean, this was fantastic, Tamaswati. I know you have to head out. So with this, we complete this question,
Yes.
this questionnaire. What I would seek your help is if there are any like annual reports that you may have published.
Sure.
You can reference to. I mean, maybe it's online or maybe you have access to that. I mean, I'm sure you will have something. If you can share some of those annual reports, that will give us a feel for how it has shaped over the years, right? You would have presented something to the board.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
so it will
Yeah,
be
yeah. I can share some of these things with you.
some of those things
Yeah, the
just
trend
for
also that we have seen, few of these
correct.
things.
That
Yeah.
will help us.
And
Secondly,
anything further that you may need, feel free to ask.
that will be wonderful. We will digest this, and then I will come back if there are any further questions. I'll come back.
Yeah, yeah. Happy
Thank
to.
you so much for your time.
And in fact, all these things helps me to think on various things as well, which I have not had the time to do so.
I mean, if we can help you in that process, why not? We'd love to help you.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Thanks then.
Thank you. Great chatting.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.